Hello and welcome back for another edition of Live Fully with Naketa Thigpen. I am your host today. Welcome, welcome. Come in. If you're getting this on replay, you can skip ahead all of 2.2 seconds because we are diving straight in today. We, as in you and me. So, if you happen to watch last week's episode, we were talking about really releasing shame, how to move forward by releasing shame and guilt and resentment and all the things that happen when we have that constant loop of negativity that seems to be crushing, if not suffocating, our dreams and all the possibilities of whatever it is that we're working on in the world. Our relationships at home, some fantastic impact project at work, or maybe just living your best life. And the negativity loop starts with, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Can I do this? Who gives you the right to do A, B, C, or XYZ? So we talked about the first two ways and the first two things that you need to deal with when you're either personalizing, which is one form of negative self-talk that comes up, or if you're filtering, which is another. But today, I want to talk to you about the other two. There's four ways altogether of how negative self-talk kind of takes over. We want to talk about the last two, which are catastrophizing and personalizing. So when we catastrophize, it sounds exactly what the word means. We blow things out of proportion. So you might have a situation where, trying to think of something negative, you had to present yourself to a group of people, let's say a virtual networking event. Why not? You had to do it, and for whatever reason, you just weren't in the best headspace. Maybe you were rushing from one meeting to another. Whatever's going on, sometimes, we get in our heads a little bit, even though we're trying to be fully present, and we don't show up as fully as we should be because we have all these other thoughts happening. And in that moment, during and towards the tail end of finishing your introduction of this fabulous project you're working on, or this great thing that's happening in your personal and or work life, you realize that you didn't share it with the detail and the vigor and the grit that you normally would show up with in that moment. So, a form of catastrophizing this, for negative self talk speak, would be when you just blew it all out of proportion. You saw yourself, oh, that was the worst representation of me. No one's going to, like me. They're not going to hear me. They're not going to understand what it is that I'm doing in the world. Just as an example, like super blew it out of proportion. When you catastrophize, you remedy it with the same way you do when you personalize. So let me jump into that before I give you the remedy for this. So when we personalize, which is the fourth way that negative self-talk kind of comes up and crushes and or tries to suffocate, snuff you out, like snuff out all the things. When the personalization loop comes, you're seeing things as really black or white. The reality is there's lots of shades of gray to a situation, whatever the circumstances is. And I talked about that in the Balance Bully episode probably about 2 weeks ago. So if you're not already a subscriber and someone who rated and reviewed the podcast, make sure you go to your favorite podcast app, wherever that is in the world, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, all the places. Thankfully, we are there. Listen to the episode. I think it was the title, The Benefits of Being Intentionally Selfish, which, if you're not used to me, that is a huge part of who I am. I am helping power couples, married women entrepreneurs, and a few bold leaders who are ready to be activated, to recalibrate and own their right to be intentionally selfish so they can amplify relational intimacy and ultimately live fully, which is why I titled this edition Live Fully, right? With that being said, I talked about it in that episode. One of the benefits is understanding that there's a lot of gray and what those shades of gray look like for you. So go check that episode out after this one, of course, and let me get back to giving you the remedy. So when you personalize in your negative self-talk, you literally are seeing everything as either or. I live in the space of and. And is where you get to expand, where you create spaciousness, where you get to show up and do all the things you would do if you didn't have expectations of other people. And A&D, that's where you show up and you're able to see the world for the possibilities that existed when you were innocent and your inner child was able to play and be curious and adventurous, right? The or shows up for a lot of us when we put ourselves in boxes. It happens. It happens to the best of us. It definitely happened to me. So I had to shift out of trying to create bigger boxes and expand the walls of the box so I could get a little bit more air. I realized that all those ways of trying to shape into the world's normal wasn't necessary. It wasn't essential for me. And in fact, it was quite limiting for me and for all the clients I served. So I shifted to breaking boxes. So let's get into the shift. The shift is part of how, and I told you guys last week, the Live Fully edition will be the how to for the portion of whatever we were talking about on the Balance Boldly podcast, which is again available everywhere, or on Thursdays when we go even deeper into intentionally selfish healing things when we're in Twitter space every Thursday at noon. See how I'm planting those seeds along the way? Okay, got you. All right. So here's three things. Get a pen and a notebook and write it down. All right. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't getting any comments in there. Okay, great. First thing, recognize that it's your negative self-talk. As a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist, trauma specialist, and now balance and relationship advisor, I can tell you that the first step to remedying any issue that is plaguing you, especially internally, is to recognize that it's even happening in the first place versus denying or trying to be busy and fill your schedule with all the things so you don't have to spend any time with you and process and receive what's really going on. Sometimes we'll do all the things, spinning on the wheel, wearing all the hats, carrying all the spinning plates at the same time, just to avoid slowing down so we can see what's going on and recognize it for what it is, so then we can do the work and eventually speed up and get to wherever it was we were trying to go without all the extra baggage. So the way you recognize when you hear yourself, I'm not this. I can't believe I did that. Oh my goodness, they're not going to understand the other. When all those things are popping up, create a catchphrase. I do something like caught and released. That's my phrase. Negative thoughts happen for all of us. It doesn't matter how many degrees, certifications, how many coaches, mentors, therapists, advisors that you have, it creeps up at every new level. When you've achieved one thing and you're like, ooh, celebration. And now you go to the next thing, that next new thing, which is a stretch for your being in work or personal life, it's stretching you. So now the negative self talk is coming up. Those defaults of those things that were threaded and scripted and imprinted on you. Notice I said on you, not by you. When you were a little tyke. For some of you, even before you left your mother's womb, there was a lot of things that were imprinted based on what you were able to absorb from her outside world. That's a whole nother conversation. And we go into deeper layers of that kind of conversation over on Twitter space when we do all things hashtag intentionally selfish, right? But for today's purpose, just catch it. Give yourself a phrase. Some of my clients use one word phrases like stop it. They literally will say it to themselves. You don't have to say it out loud so other people are like, aware of what's happening. Like, who's she talking to? Who's he talking to? You just say it to yourself. For me, it's I caught you. I caught you and I'm releasing you. I see you for what you are. You're trying to slow me down. You're trying to slow me down in a negative way by making me doubt myself and not trust, which is a whole nother conversation, right? There's so many layers to this, but I don't want you to get confused. I just want to give you to concentrate it all down to the juicy goodness. The second thing is to get moving. Literally, get up out of your chair. I'm standing, so I would just start pacing or walking. If you have a home gym, go jump on your whatever, your Peloton, your treadmill, go pick up some hand weights, just 2 to 5 minutes. You just need to be moving. You don't necessarily need to be breaking a sweat, but you do need to be moving and start speaking life over yourself. Literally start to put those things in check. That part of you that's trying to creep up and tell you that you couldn't, wouldn't, shouldn't, would never be, speak life. You have to be kind to yourself, not you're so dumb for thinking this. Why are you even being like this? That's not helpful. That's actually feeding the fuel of the negativity. We don't want to feed it. We don't want to fuel it that way. Gas costs too much already. Okay. So we want to make sure that we're coming into a space where we can give ourselves some kindness, some loving words like, you know what? In that little proverbial situation analogy that I made up of you not showing up fully in your presentation to other people when you introduce yourself or maybe did a full on presentation, put it in perspective a little bit. You know what? That probably wasn't the best version of me. Why did that happen? Where was that coming from? Oh, because I was rushing. I let that other conversation go over an extra 10 minutes and then it kind of snowballed my day. So everything felt compressed. Okay, got it, Naketa. Next time, I'll make sure that I have cushion. No matter how much I want to overgive in that conversation, unless I have a way to create that space before I do my next presentation, so I have time to get into the zone, whatever that looks like for me, whatever that looks like for you, I'll make sure that I understood the consequences of that and not do it again. I got it. Not a problem. I'll just do better. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they got the meat and potato of everything they needed to know. They know that I'm the person to come to when they want to amplify intimacy. I'm the person to come to if they want to understand how they can take some more space for themselves and create some boundaries and be intentionally selfish. As long as they got those points, all the other parts, they were just, niceties that just shaped everything into a powerful statement. I'll just make sure that I can do it better next time. See how that was kind? It wasn't dismissive. It wasn't pretending that you didn't have like an off day, but it was in alignment with what you needed to speak life over yourself, to reaffirm that you are that amazing, audacious, ambitious human that you are, and you can do all things, whatever that is for you, right? Third thing, listen and laugh. The listening part was a little bit of what I just inferred to. You want to ask yourself, and you can do it privately, like, what was coming up? Like, where was that coming from? Like, why were you off today? What was happening last night that made your morning start off? Like wherever that situation happened in the day where you were starting to have all the negative self talk, like just kind of listen to what comes up. Your body tells on you. So you might feel some tightness in your left shoulder, a pain in your lower back, some queasiness in your stomach. Whole nother conversation. We go deeper in that and intentionally selfish in Twitter space when we're talking about healing, our mind, body, soul, spirit, all the things. That's for that conversation. So join me Thursdays at noon over on Twitter space for that. That's audio. That's their version of Clubhouse, basically. You can join me for those conversations. But for this one, just listen to what comes up and then laugh. I know this sounds silly, but scientifically, it is proven that laughter can literally shift your energy and shift your mood. So laugh, get those endorphins going, that oxytocin pumping through your body. Laugh out loud. Doesn't have to be any like weird, wild Joker style laughing where people are like, "What's wrong with him? What's wrong with her?" You can just do a little chuckle to yourself. One where other people would probably passing by be like, oh, she was thinking of something funny versus what's wrong with her. You don't want that. So, and if you have privacy at home or you're with safe people, literally belly, gut wrenching, like bent over, laugh out loud. And within roughly 30 seconds, your mood automatically changes. It might only shift up a little bit depending on how deep you were in that kind of negativity funnel, but it'll shift. And if you needed to shift any more, keep working through the steps. Recognize what it was, get moving, speak life over yourself, listen to what's coming up, like where did it come from, why did it happen, and then laugh it off. So I hope that was helpful for you. I was trying to keep it short and sweet, and it looked like we did good on time, which is excellent. I would love to hear your favorite takeaway from this edition of Live Fully, but more importantly, when was the last time you had negative self-talk that was literally trying to suffocate whatever it was you were doing, whether you were creating a personal project or something for work and you had to really push yourself through it? I would love to hear whatever story you're comfortable sharing. right here in the comments. If you're not comfortable sharing it here, go ahead and DM me wherever you're hearing this, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. DM me. I would love to know more. I would also love to have a cup of tea with you if it makes sense. So if you're interested in that too, we'll have a virtual cup, of course, but a virtual cup of tea right over Zoom, 15, 20 minutes, and I can get to know more about you and how I can support you. Until next week, this time, 12 p.m. Eastern, I'm Naketa Thigpen, and I look forward to seeing you again. Have a good one.